Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending tonight's event, which is part of the ABB Optical Specialty Contact Lens webinar series for 2021. I'm Craig Norman, and I'm pleased to be the moderator this evening. I'd like to mention that the opinions shared here tonight are strictly mine, our presenters, and our special guest, and not that of ABB Optical Group. You may be wondering why I'm wearing a cap indoors and at night, and late at night. This is not routine for me, but instead was a recent gift and is a reminder that today is the World Keratoconus Day, which is really fitting considering the topic that we're covering this evening. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce our presenter this evening. Dr. Katie Brown graduated from the Southern College of Optometry in Memphis in 2012. She has practiced in many different settings, which is great for background, until finally finding her home at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences Jones Eye Institute in Little Rock, where she's been for the last 8 years. And besides seeing patients, is involved in teaching optics, contact lens fitting, and other aspects of eye care to medical students, ophthalmology residents, and technicians. She offers a really interesting perspective because of this. And I think that you're going to especially find tonight's style of presentation, where we are going to have not only Dr. Brown, that is going to talk about her experiences with a particular patient. We are fortunate enough to have that patient with us this evening as well. Dr. Brown, welcome so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for that introduction. So, I really hope tonight is informative, not just from the fitter perspective, but also the patient perspective. So I'll introduce Dr. Greg Elders here in just a moment, but he's not only a doctor, but a keratoconus patient. So that just makes this really special, and I hope that it's informative and unique. And so just a little more about where I practice. So this is the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. This is the Jones Eye Institute here on the right side of the screen. And I practice on the first floor of this 9-story building. UAMS is the only academic medical center in the state of Arkansas. And we are also the only level 1 trauma center. So this means that we get a lot of trauma, we get a lot of orbital trauma, facial trauma, and penetrating ocular trauma. So I have the privilege to work with many subspecialists, and down here on the bottom left, this is Dr. Pemberton. He's one of our oculoplastic specialists. And along with him and our retina specialists, I really get to collaborate and co-manage on aphakia cases, corneal lax, in different open globe cases. And so here I am with Dr. Warner. He's one of our cornea specialists, and we're sitting here with one of our complicated post-refractive surgery patients. And, Dr. Warner did multiple surgeries on this patient, and I kind of came in and did some scleral lens fitting, and got this patient functional again and back to work. So it's just a privilege to work with this group and to practice in this setting. And so to give you an idea of where we're located, UAMS is located in the center of the state in the capital city of Little Rock. And for those of you who have no idea where Arkansas is, there's this really big state right over here called Texas. So we're right beside Texas, Oklahoma, down here is Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Missouri. And Dr. Elders lives up on the, very close to the Missouri border in Mountain Home, Arkansas. And so geography really plays a big part in his story and how he, kind of the convoluted path he had to take, not only on all these little back roads and highways to get to me, but also kind of that referral process to get referred to me to get scleral lenses. And so I just want to take this time and introduce Dr. Greg Elders. He is a family practice physician, and he graduated from UAMS back about 30 years ago and has been practicing in Mountain Home. And he is a senior doctor at Regional Family Medicine. And once again, he does have keratoconus and has been living with this condition for 35 plus years. So Dr. Elders, welcome tonight. It's a privilege to be on with you. Can you kind of take us through your diagnosis and timeline and really what led up to the referral to get fitted with scleral lenses?
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Brown. It's kind of a long story, and I appreciate the chance to share this, and I appreciate all the help you've given to me these past couple of years. But my eye story really started before school. I was diagnosed with a form of a severe astigmatism when I was 5 years old. About 16 years old, I was fitted with soft contacts, and that lasted through college. About halfway through medical school, I began to notice some worsening vision and visited an eye provider in Little Rock while I was in medical school, and I was diagnosed at that time with keratoconus. By then, I'd read a little bit about keratoconus just in medical school studies, but the fact that I was diagnosed with this, and he used the word transplant in the conversation back in 1988, kind of set me for a loop, and I was a little bit fearful for my professional goals, but I was able to, at first, get along with soft contacts and glasses. But about second year of residency, by which time I was up in Springfield, Missouri, I was losing acuity, losing ability to, I really learned the problem about 2 a.m. trying to examine some ears in an emergency room, and I could not see. So I got in with one of our consulting corneal specialists up in Springfield and was fitted with just small standard rigid gas perm lenses, and shortly thereafter was dependent on those for functional vision, couldn't wear glasses. And that prescription that I got in 1991 was what I was still wearing when I met you in 2019, I believe it was. Because from there, from 1991 on, I started practice in 1992, and that practice involved midnight runs. I did obstetrics. I still like to do outdoor activities. Tried to get refitted, went through multiple fittings, even tried some of the skirted Saturn lenses that they used back then. Didn't really work, but I muddled along, was able to practice up until 2018 or so, when I began to lose comfort, lose vision, lose duration. I like to blame it on electronic medical records. the time I had to spend staring at the computer. I still blame that, but I blame everything on electronic records. At any rate, losing that, I went to see my local eye providers, and we had talked off and on about procedures such as corneal cross-linking procedures, and at that point it was time to do something. I was not able to even watch TV in the evenings because of discomfort. So my local provider up here in Mountain Home referred me to a scleral specialist, corneal specialist, excuse me, in Little Rock. And I spoke with that physician and learned that I was too old to consider corneal cross-linking procedures. Didn't surprise me entirely. He did say, but I have a possible solution. I know I have a doc that can fit you with scleral lenses, and he described them briefly. I was a little skeptical that we had another idea, having tried the large skirted lenses years before, but with the insistence of my smart and beautiful wife, we went ahead and kept the appointment with Dr. Brown. And so then that was 2019, and that's when I came to your office for the first time.
Okay, so I'll just kind of jump in with that referral information that I had the day you came to me. So at that time, you had keratoconus for about 35 years, and and chief complaint was that you were really uncomfortable in your RGPs, really light sensitive, having glare at nighttime, and just sensitive in general to dust and sweat, having trouble doing some of those outdoor activities that you enjoy. And so VA with the RGPs was about 20/40 in each eye. And slit lamp exam revealed apical corneal scars. I have a picture of that coming up. So it was worse in the left eye when compared to the right. And also finding some cataracts. So as Dr. Elders said, his cornea specialist, and this is an outside cornea specialist here in Little Rock, referred him to me for scleral lenses. And I actually talked to this specialist on the phone. We have a really good relationship. And he said, look, you know, Katie, you gotta fit this guy. I mean, he's looking at a corneal transplant or another procedure. This is kind of the last hope until we start having to, you know, we need surgical intervention essentially. So Dr. Elders, I mean, you know, had you really considered surgery at this point, and were you thinking that it seemed imminent? I know you were skeptical, but your wife is a very smart lady. You know, what were you thinking about kind of your future and surgery at this point?
Well, it was a little scary. I had from the onset of this, from 1988, I'd always had that fear in the back of my mind that this would be a limiter for me. That intervening 25, 30 years maybe had lulled me into a sense of complacency about it, but that last year it got worse and worse, and I was really fearful that I was going to have to do something or simply limit my practice where I would do other things that didn't involve staring at a computer or allow me to take a nap in the middle of the day with the contacts out. But yeah, I was really fearful that I was going to have to do something more drastic.
And so just to, you know, I made Dr. Elders bring his old lenses because you know how keratoconus patients are. They keep their lenses from the 1980s and 1990s. And so here are his RGPs. And he brought those in just a couple weeks ago, and I was able to get these photos. As you can see here, so I've got the right eye pictured on this side, kind of like you're looking at the patient, and this is the left eye over here. You can see that both lenses are decentered nasally and a lot of apical bearing right over the apex of that cone. And then under that left lens, we even have some bubbles. And I have some more pictures here. You can really see how decentered the right lens here is right here, but goodness gracious, this left lens, I honestly don't know how it was staying in the eye. I had to snap some pictures quickly before it popped out. So obviously a lot of edge left, and he was having to squint, you know, to keep these in his eyes, which I know he had been doing for years as an adaptation, and probably didn't realize it. Dr. Elders, just briefly tell us about, you know, you were successful with RGPs for a number of decades, really. And when did it start getting uncomfortable? And, you know, did you have the lenses pop out at any point? And did you try to have your RGPs adjusted at some point for a refitting?
Well, I did. My fitter up here in Mountain Home had tried on several occasions, sometimes against my objections that, hey, this won't work, to try new fittings. So we tried, as I mentioned, the skirted lenses. And for those of you who've never seen those, they're basically an RGP with a soft lens rim around it. And those, probably because of the way these pictures look, weren't very comfortable very long. And yes, I had trouble with my contacts popping out. I had adapted subconsciously by simply not turning my head. By not turning my eyes, I would turn my head. So I would see videos of myself in family events, and I was turning on block. I was not moving my eyes. I was turning my head to look around. I had a I would have contacts stationed all over the place. They were not the same contacts all 35 years. They were the same prescription, and I would keep a large supply of them, stay way ahead in case I lost some. And I would always travel with 2 or 3 extra pairs just in case one popped out on St. Charles Avenue in New Orleans one time as we were in Mardi Gras. Didn't look for that one very long. But they would just, and it got progressively worse. They would pop out and pop out. And really those last couple of years it became worse and worse. The squinting, there's a lot of pictures where I'm just very squinty eyed. And a lot of that, it would sneak up on me what I was limiting myself by. Again, the frog in the pot of boiling water, I'd kind of boxed myself in with this stuff over the years, just believing that it was this or a cookie cutter.
Right, and to give your local eye doctor credit, I mean, there's no way I could fit your eyes in a small diameter RGP. I mean, there are some really excellent RGP fitters out there, and I'm not one of them. And this seems impossible to me to get a good fit. You know, I think no matter what adjustments that I would do to these lenses, they would probably still look pretty ugly. So no doubt for me, I mean, it was a no-brainer to put you in scleral lenses like your cornea specialist had recommended. And so I'll just kind of go into your topography here. So guys, disclaimer, this is real life, okay? This is messy. This was the first time that I saw Dr. Elders, and it was actually July of 2020. You got referred in 2019, but of course, and there was this little thing called COVID-19, and it happened. And so I didn't end up seeing you until the summer of 2020 for the first time. And so this was the very first visit. And this topography isn't pretty. It's ugly. It's not a great scan. You're really, you can't hardly even open your eye here. So this is what we had to go off of for the right eye. Just to talk briefly about the settings here, I like to have the axial map, the rings image. When you get a good scan, you get the HVID and the pupil size right here. Keratometry and elevation map, and obviously your axial map gives you those kind of quantitative values. Your keratometry map, I like that because it gives a more detailed view of the cornea, so 0 to 3 millimeters, 3 to 6, and 6 to 9. And if you look at Dr. Elder's right eye here, you know, he ranges all the way from 71 diopters down to 40 diopters. And this CIM is the corneal irregularity measurement, and it should be less than 1, so he's at 6.63, and that just kind of quantifies how irregular this cornea is. And down here, the elevation map just as a good predictor of floor seam patterns, so kind of the high spots that you're going to need to vault with those scleral lenses. And so let's take a look at the left eye. Left eye scan looks even worse. It attempted an HVID, but I'm not sure that that's quite accurate there. But if you look down here at the Ks, these Ks range all the way from 30, you know, I think like 32 up to 77. So corneal irregularity measurement is even higher, even worse at 9.11. And this is kind of what we had to go off of to select that initial lens. Here's the left eye scarring. The right eye looked very similar. So scarring over the apex, it just wasn't quite as dense as this left eye. Dr. Elders told me that he also had an injury to this left eye, an injury with a rock. And so that probably made the scarring worse over here as well. But there's kind of what we're working with. Thank goodness that that scar is inferior and he's got this kind of clear area here. So hoping that we can get good vision out of these sclerals. And so I chose to fit the ICD Flex lens. And this applies to the ICD Flex, but honestly, I use the same method with any scleral lens. So 3 simple steps. you want to get the central vault first, and then you're going to over refract it, and then you come back after it's settled for a while and kind of customize it. So first we're going to talk about that central vault and that initial lens selection. So this is the fitting set. It comes with both a 14/8 diameter right here and a 16/3. Fitting pearl, number one of the night. I really don't use the 14/8 hardly ever. I have a Wednesday clinic in which I see 14 to 16 medical lens patients every Wednesday, and I pull out the 14/8 about twice a year. So, and that might be on like a 6-year-old. So really, go over here, look at your 16/3. And then second fitting pearl of the night, if you don't know, and Dr. Elders is kind of out of the box because he has advanced keratoconus, but if you just get a really bad scan and or maybe it's a graft, right? Grafts are really unpredictable. You don't know if it's flat or steep or what's going on. The best lens, in my opinion, to put in is the 4200. I would say that maybe 30 to 40% of the eyes that I fit do really well in the 4200, so that's a great guess. Of course, I told you Dr. Elders doesn't fit that rule, so here's a little more in-depth kind of description of the fitting guide. So we would call him moderate to advanced, and more advanced in the left eye because of that scarring and those Ks. I decided, the fitting guide says to put in a 4800 here for the advanced, and early to moderate it said 4400. I went with a 4600 in each eye. So that was the first lens we put in each eye. I wanted to see what it looked like. So here it is. So 4600 right eye over here, left eye over here. And obviously here in the left eye, you see this dark area, and that's area over that cone. But that right eye looks pretty good, right? We're gonna kind of look at more photos of this, but Dr. Elders, even though we didn't quite have the fit right on that first pair, what was your initial impression of the lenses?
I was impressed right off the bat. We put those in, and I could see as well out of the fitters as I could with my RGPs, just the fitters. And I think I even asked you if I could just keep those for now. You advised otherwise, wisely so, but they were very comfortable. Of course, anything would be after that, but they were much more comfortable than what I'd been used to all this time. And my vision was significantly better. And the photophobia was gone already.
Yeah, and I don't even think I mentioned this, but Dr. Elders had, bilateral corneal abrasions the day that I fit him. So, I mean, yeah, he had a ton of photophobia, that's why we got those horrible topography scans. But he was in discomfort all the time. And so getting a lens that vaulted that cornea some, it was a relief, and that stayed in, that was stable, was a relief for sure to him. And there's another picture of that left eye. So obviously we need to go up and sag, okay? And so I thought that was a big enough area of touch. In the fitting set, it goes 200 microns, okay? So again, we started with the 46, and I thought, man, I don't want just a 200 micron change, let's go 400. So ended up putting in a 5,000 in that left eye. So 46 on the right, 5,000 in the left, and I'll kind of show you some pictures of the central vault. So this is in the fitting guide of the ICD. Look at how pretty this cornea is, right? Nice normal cornea, same thickness all the way. Ideally, we want 300 to 400 microns of clearance under that lens. And the way that you can judge that is that we know that the lenses are 300 microns thick. So you can look at the thickness of the lens and compare that to the fluorescein underneath it. So this one's a little thin, this one's a little thick. But what you'll see over here, and I've got multiple images here. So this is the right eye. really thick up here, and I'm sorry that you can't see the front of the lens that well, but it's right about here. And then it gets really thin, almost thinking, is there really clearance here? It's definitely less than 300 to 400 microns. And then up here, it's definitely more than 300 to 400 microns. So this is not a regular cornea. It will have, you know, thick and thin zones in that fluorescein pattern. Here's kind of a better view of how thin it was over that area, over that cone in that right eye. And then this is the left eye. It looks like I took a terrible picture, which that could also be true. Not the best photographer, but this is actually glare from that white scar. So, you know, lots of fluorescein here, and it narrows down to nothing. I mean, you know, so that was that 4600 lens on the left eye. And then here are pictures when I switched to the 5000 in the left and ending, you know, with the 4600 in the right. And, you know, look at this cornea. It's definitely not regular. That fluorescein pattern isn't regular, but I finally achieved maybe 150 to 200 microns of vault over this really steep part of the cornea. And honestly, I was pretty happy with that. So this was the, this was kind of the base that I wanted to use for the rest of my fitting. Okay, second step is over refracting. So before I move on to over refraction, just to kind of save a little time, what I do on that initial lens selection is I fit low. Okay, so I go a little lower. That's why I went with a 4600 versus the 4800, because I can see touch really well. My techs, they can see touch. They can shine their cobalt blue flashlight into the patient's eye, and they can see that area of touch, and they can make a decision, oh, we need to go up and vault, and they can change that lens out without having to ask me. So it saves us time. They don't have to come get me and have me look at it. It saves us time to kind of start low and work our way up versus the other way around. So that's kind of my fitting strategy, is that I think starting low is easier to see corneal touch than it is to see excess vault, especially for your technicians. And I couldn't survive without my technicians running around and helping me. So second step, over refract. This is my EMR. So, and this was not made by eye providers. This was made by a hospital. So I'm sorry that it's kind of split up really funny. But right here, this is the power that's in the fitting lens. So again, we have that 4600 in the right, 5000 in the left, and here's our over refraction. So minus 550 plus 5, minus 5 1/4 plus 1. Of course, I have to convert that to minus still. And honestly, you know, don't forget to vertex your over refraction, especially if it's over a +4 or a -4. In this case, if I would have taken my own advice, I might have dropped this still to a 475 and a 75. I can guarantee you Dr. Elders didn't notice because his vision is so poor. And plus, he had corneal abrasion, so we were working with that as well. But just remember, sometimes it really does make a significant difference, and your fitting consultants can help you with this if you don't want to, you know, do the vertexing yourself. And by the way, we have a fitting consultant on tonight. Her name is Dee Dee, and Dee Dee is the manager for consultation and education at ABB. And I might ask her for some of her opinion as we go along. Hi, Dee Dee.
Hey, everybody.
So moving along here, you know, let me show you first this rotation right here. This is really important, and I'm about to show you why. So this tells the lab where to put, if you are doing toric power, where to put your axis and where to align things so that you're getting the appropriate axis. Because we all know that if your axis isn't in the right location, that you're not getting enough of your cylinder, or maybe none of your cylinder is being induced. And so with the ICD, it's got some tick marks, and the way that ICD is able to have front toric power built on the front of their lenses is because they have toric haptics. And toric haptics just mean it's steeper in one meridian versus the other meridian. And the reason this is a good thing is because we know that the sclera is not spherical. There are some high and low areas in that scleral topography, and we know that fitting scleral lenses with toric haptics provides better fitting, increased wear times for the patient, and just better overall comfort and vision. So if you're not fitting toric haptics, you need to be. There are a very few occasions where I have removed some of the toricity from the lens, and again, that's something I asked Dee Dee about when I call her. And they can help you with that. They can take the toricity out, or they can add more. And the big thing to focus on there is where this toric mark is. So not only are you measuring, you know, the location or the axis of the toric mark, but you can also tell Dee Dee, is it, you know, too tight at the toric mark kind of axis or meridian, or is it too tight? So the steep meridian is opposite. This is the flat meridian, and 90 degrees away is the steep meridian. So you can kind of let your fitting consultant know, look, it's too flat. The lens looks too flat at the edge on that flat meridian, or too steep at the edge on that flat meridian. You just have to be descriptive. Dee Dee, do you have anything to add to that?
But, you know, one of the biggest things for us is to know, again, where that hash mark lies. And with it marking the flat meridian, and it doesn't always stay at that 3 and 9 position. Sometimes it will shift a little bit. The other thing too is if you think maybe it's not where it should be, rotate it and then let it fall back to where it goes naturally, because it will naturally align with the flat meridian of the sclera.
You know, with Dr. Elders, he's a good example. That's a picture of his left eye, so it looks pretty close to 180, but his right eye was at 35, so it definitely didn't align. And you know, with 5 diopters of SIL, that matters a lot. You can't just call it 180. Okay, so there's another picture. This is the picture that's in, I believe, your fitting guide. But there's just where they have black marks where the toric marks are. In fact, I might do that with my fitting lenses so that I can see them a little better. But on high mag, they're pretty easy to see. Okay, third and final step, we're going to customize these lenses. So just a little bit about the zones. All lenses kind of have different zones that you can adjust. What I really, really like about the ICD is that it's predictable. Like I know if I know how much to adjust it, and I know also that if you adjust it, for example, the limbal clearance zone, so that's this green zone right here. If I'm making it steeper, which in ICD terms is a plus, okay? So if I'm making a positive change, or I'm giving it a plus change, that is also going to translate inward or central. So the PCCZ, peripheral corneal clearance zone, is going to have a little more vault, and so is the central clearance zone. And if you think of Dr. Elder's case, you know, we barely had clearance over the apex of his cone. And so it's nice that maybe we can use these peripheral curves to give it a little bump up in the central clearance as well. So it's kind of how you can fine tune the central clearance by adjusting some of these other curves. And so if you say that you want a one-step adjustment, then that is a 25 micron adjustment in ICD terms. So again, positive is steeper, negative is flatter, and each step is 25 microns. So that's something to keep in mind there. And so let's look at the edges of Dr. Elder's lens. Again, this is the right and this is the left eye. So over here on the right side, you know, we really don't want the lens landing, or the weight of the lens landing on the cornea or on the corneal limbal stem cells. So in this case, he has quite a bit of, you know, corneal bearing here, peripheral corneal bearing. There's a little bit of limbal clearance, but not much. And if you look over here on the left eye, it's not quite as bad, but both could be just a little bit better, because really I want that fluorescein to leak out about where my arrow is here. So I made an adjustment, and I actually gave the right eye a +6 PCCZ and a +2 LCZ. And then this just looks beautiful, right? So we have limbal clearance, fluoresceins now leaking out past the limbus. And over here in the left eye, I gave it a +4 PCCZ, so not quite as much as the right. And then also I did a +2 LCZ. So that concludes the adjustments. Dee Dee, do you have anything else to say about that?
No, just know that whenever you make those adjustments in the peripheral corneal zones, the peripheral corneal clearance zone or the limbal zone, it will also give you a little bit more apical or central clearance as well. So always take that into effect. If you do have a reverse curve eye where it's flatter in the center and steeper in the periphery, we can flatten the base curve or the CCZ considerably and steepen the PCC and the LCZ to create that reverse curve.
And then Dr. Elders had another phenomenon, not just keratoconus, he's multi-talented. So he has something called conjunctival prolapse, and really this is not a huge issue. Dee Dee will kind of tell you some things to look at, but you know, down here, again, this is the left eye, inferior temporal and inferior temporal of the right eye, kind of in this quadrant here. He's got some conjunctiva kind of covering that limbal area, and it looks like the lens is touching, right? It looks like you have really bad limbal clearance. In my experience, this is, you know, I've removed the lenses and it goes away. I mean, there's no residual redness or anything. Dee Dee, do you have things we can look out for, and when is this not okay?
Absolutely. So in many cases, we see a little bit of conjunctival prolapse. We see it a lot of times inferiorly. The lenses do tend to decenter down a little bit. In all scleral lenses, you'll see a little bit of decentration. So you may have a little bit more clearance in that limbal inferior area. And sometimes you just have boggy conj. And the conj will just come up and kind of lay over that limbus a little bit. As long as it's not vascularized, as long as it dissipates after those lenses come off pretty quickly, then it's really not anything to worry about. It's just something to watch to make sure that there are no vascularization happening or anything like that. So it doesn't always create alarm as much as it does just watching it to make sure that it doesn't start to vascularize. If it starts to vascularize, then we really do need to make a shift in the lens.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Dr. Elders, I think she just called your conj boggy. All right, I don't know if I heard that right, but we'll have to get her after this.
Well, I guess I can just own that. So.
So making our way out to the very edge of the lens, this is kind of the last zone I'll talk about, and this is the scleral landing zone. So again, this is a picture of the right eye, and this is the left eye. And we're really looking right out here at the edge of this lens, and he honestly has a little bit of neovascularization superiorly, but I didn't do that. I'm not responsible for that. I think that's those 30-something years of Rgp wear in abuse. And so up here, we're looking for any blanching or any impingement of those conjunctival vessels as they flow under the lens. And really, this looks, I mean, this looks pretty ideal. This is a little out of focus, so you can't, maybe you would be tempted to say that doesn't look good there, but this is beautiful. This is exactly what you want it to look like. And then over here, again, I think I might be just a little out of focus here, but this looks pretty good. Now, there was a time when Dr. Elders was talking about his left lens being a little harder to get out. So what I ended up doing is just making a -1 SLZ adjustment. And I think that helped out. And also he got a little better at maybe inserting and removing the lenses. But, you know, what I like to, if I'm just going to do a small adjustment, like a -1, I think it's more valuable to see these lenses and make that adjustment and make that call at the scleral lens check, you know, after they've been wearing the lenses a few weeks, because we want to see those lenses on eye for 5+ hours, right? Not the 30 to 45 minutes that they might have been sitting in the chair throughout this fitting process. So you get more information the longer they wear the lens, so you can see if it's tightened up. So it was at that return visit that I did make a -1 SLZ adjustment. And so now we get to the good stuff, Dr. Elder. So this is the dispense visit, and he came back in 2 weeks later to pick up his lenses. And you know, if you'll remember from the initial fitting, even with the corneal abrasions, we got his vision down to 20/25 in both eyes. But unfortunately, look at this. I mean, this is kind of like, no, why did this happen? Why is he 20/40 and 20/50 at the dispense visit? Obviously, his corneas are probably unstable because he has these RGPs rocking on his, you know, on the apex of his cones. But this was a little disappointing, although Dr. Elder seemed pretty happy because he was more comfortable in seeing about the same. But I knew we could do better, right? And so what I did was I decided, you know, I don't want to do like cross sil. I don't want to do over refraction with cylinder and make Dee Dee put it in her calculator, although she can do that for you, because I just think that's a little messy, right? So what I did is I took those lenses out. I said, don't worry, Dr. Elders, I'm going to give those to you to take home, but let me take a few more measurements. And we took those lenses out and we put back in the fitting set lenses. So that's what this is over here. And so with those fitting set lenses, I mean, if his corneas were stable, we should get the exact same over refraction that we got on that initial visit. And that's not what happened. So over the fitting set lenses, I got like a 50-degree change in axis when compared to before, and a 5 diopter increase in cylinder. So obviously he is, I mean, not stable at all, right? So I made the decision and I said, you know what? Let's leave the sil out altogether. I'm not even going to order cylinder. I'm going to order spherical lenses. And so again, I gave him his best spherical over refraction, and here we are. 20/40, I mean, that's what he came in with his RGPs. This guy's pretty happy either way, but I want to make it better. So I dispensed these lenses with the cylinder, and I told Dr. Elders we would also mail him the spherical lenses, and he could literally wear whatever he wanted. He could mix and match them. I don't care as long as he's out of the RGPs. I need his corneas to be, you know, unmolested. I need them to be in scleral lenses so that they can begin to heal and they can begin to stabilize. So under no condition was he supposed to put those RGPs back in, which hopefully he didn't want to. Dr. Elders, what was your experience the first month in your scleral lenses? So take us through, you know, learning how to put them in and the solutions if you had fogging, and tell us what that was like.
Well, I like this slide. I didn't mention that before, but the young lady with the plunger in her eyes, kind of the first impression when in that first fitting visit. But honestly, I had a good first month. I had my daytime hourly wear. Again, I mentioned I couldn't wear glasses, so I was contact dependent for functional vision. But yeah, I could wear it till bedtime. I could get them in the morning. Taking them out was a little bit of an adventure. You mentioned on the left side, and I had the little suction cups. My left eye was specifically hard to get out, and there was one evening the first week where I had just multiple pop-offs, and I'm thinking, do I go to the ER? I'm not going to call Dr. Brown at 11 o'clock at night and figure that out because she can't do anything from Little Rock. I thought about getting my fingernail and pulling it up from the side. It didn't do that. But ultimately, I just stopped for a second and stepped back and thought about the physics of it. And then the next try that came out. And from there, I got better at it. Putting them in, sometimes I would get bubbles. But again, that was a learning curve. But it was really a good month. I mean, compared to what I'd been used to, almost anything would be an improvement. But these were very functional.
Perfect. And you didn't experience, I mean, one of the big things, we call it the F word in scleral lens fitting, and that's fogging. So did you experience any midday fogging with those lenses?
Well, you had warned me about that, and I actually prepared by taking my kit to work with me, but I never had trouble with it. I did have midday cloudy vision with my RGPs, but apparently that was midday corneal edema from the abrasions. So again, comparatively, maybe I just didn't notice it, but I didn't really have any problems with it that I could detect.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to move on to his follow-up appointments and kind of wrap up here. So I saw him about a month later, and we still got, at this point, I think he wore in, a mix and match. Like I said, I told him I didn't care as long as he didn't go back to his RGPs. So we have a spherical in one eye and a toric in the other eye, and that was fine. I just told him to pick whichever one gave him the best vision. And here we still got a wacky over refraction, but now look at this vision. We're getting 20/20 and 20/30 in the left eye. So this is looking pretty good. This is looking up. Don't ask me why he's 20/40 here and with plano he's 20/30. It's the placebo effect. I don't know. But I decided, you know what? He's been out of the lens for the RGPs for about a month. I'm going to go ahead and order that for him. And again, he gets to, I let him keep all of his lenses because I just didn't really know what his corneas were up to. And just like the doctor patient that he is, he disappeared on me for over a year. And Dr. Elders, before we move into our most recent visit, can you go over, you did have an event happen in early September. Can you talk us through what was going on with your left eye?
Well, again, of course, that's the one with all the stuff in it anyway. I really had a good year, as you may have guessed, with that, and I was functioning well. And in this weekend in September, I began to notice a little cloudiness and blurriness in the lower aspect of my central vision on the left eye. And a little more discomfort in the evening when I would take that the scleral lens out, but nothing that really caught my attention until I just had what seemed like a bubble in my vision, which would be the way a bubble under a scleral lens would seem, but again low, and that struck me as odd. So I tried to change the saline a couple of times, didn't go away, and I finally got up close in a makeup mirror and looked, and I had a cloudy round lesion that again my wife could see from across the room when she looked at it, and the sclera was out. So I convinced myself I had an ulcer developing. Discarded all my equipment, got my backup set out, changed out to the other set of lenses I had not been wearing, left the left lens out, and contacted my local eye guy. And rather than, he recognized it not as an ulcer, for which I'd already gotten some moxifloxacin, but he recognized it as hydrops over the apex, which fortunately, because of those pictures, that's below my central line of vision. So yes, hydrops. So the course of that was, at that point I contacted Dr. Brown, and together we came up with a plan. I left the contact out for actually a week using hypertonic gel and then some Timoptic and some topical corticosteroid. And it became more comfortable fairly rapidly. The cloudiness seemed to go away. I was monocular for a while, essentially. After, and I could see it. So it began to seem to regress. I put my contact in halftime for the following week, and at the end of 2 weeks, I was pretty much back to normal as far as I could tell, in comfort and in vision. So, again, hydrops is one of those things. At that point, I made a follow-up with my corneal specialist as well, which turned out to happen after I was able to see Dr. Brown again about this. So.
And what did he gave you some good news, right, Dr. Elders? What did he say about that cornea?
Well, he actually thought my curvatures looked better after that. I guess it did something similar to what the scarring of the hydrops would actually did what the corneal cross-linking should have done. It flattened my curvatures a little bit. Of course, they also mentioned that a lot of times hydrops is a corneal terminal event. That's what precedes the transition to needing a transplant, but fortunately mine resolved in fairly short order. So.
Right, very quickly. I mean, there are some patients where it takes months for their eye drops to resolve. So you were definitely fortunate, and I'm glad you got a little flattening out of it.
Right. And it wasn't attributed to the contacts. And there was really no event or anything that made it happen. It's just one of those things, I suppose.
Yes, sir. So looking here at the follow-up visit, just a couple weeks with me, he wore in this pair here, we determined, after reading them under the lensometer. And look at this over refraction, you guys. So we have finally achieved stability. I mean, this is, you know, over a year later in high drops. And I only got a -50 over the right and a +1/4 over the left. 2020, 2025, that's money. That's good. He is happy. I am happy. All is well. So I'm just going to wrap this up. Dr. Elders really agreed to do this talk because both of us feel that it's really important to encourage you as eye care providers to offer these services to your patients. I mean, Dr. Elders had to drive 3.5 hours to come see me, right? And so if there had been a provider closer to him, he wouldn't have had to make that drive. And quite honestly, we know that patients in these rural areas of any state aren't getting offered these life-changing services. So we really just want to, you know, encourage you to do this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be pretty. There was nothing about this that was pretty, right? But Dr. Elders trusted me, and we got him there. You know, we got him seeing 2020. So really, we just want to encourage you, you know, this is what it would look like in Arkansas if we had some more fitters kind of sprinkled about. And we hope that this encourages you to fit scleral lenses and specialty lenses in your rural area of the state if that's where you live, or at least know where to send these patients and offer the services. Dr. Elders, do you have anything to say on wrap up here on how it's impacted your life and really even your career?
Sure. I mean, I think that's kind of the key. In 2019, 2020, I was becoming convinced that I was going to have to shorten my career. I'm not intending on, I enjoy what I do quite a lot, but I was really convinced that I was going to have to shorten and retire early because I was not able to wear contacts and do the eye strain of the day. And with this, you know, the world is again my oyster. I can practice, I can continue doing this with comfort, without the strain. My family saw me after I got these fitted and they said, I can actually see your eyes again. It changed my appearance, my professional outlook. It's really one of those turning points. Life's good again. So thank you.
Yes, yes. Oh, and just a disclaimer, Dr. Elders is wearing his reading glasses over his sclerals. He has his sclerals.
I do.
Now. And he likes to wear, you know, read over.
Well, I am 58, so I want to see what's going on here. But yeah, you can see him there. So, but
all right. I'll turn it over to Dee Dee if you're ready. Dee Dee?
Absolutely, I'm ready. Katie, Dr. Elders, thank you so much for being with us this evening. We do appreciate everything that you guys do, and thanks for doing this for us. Katie, we have a couple of questions that came through, and I know we'll have time at the very end to ask some questions as well. So hang on at the end of my little few slides, and then we'll ask these questions to you. So I just want to introduce and say thank you from ABB to everybody for attending and kind of give you a little bit about what ABB can do for you as a practice. We have educational resources. We do gas permeable and custom soft lenses, and we really have an area of dry eye expertise as well. Go ahead and switch. We have the most advanced and largest portfolio of in the industry for not only contact lenses, both soft and custom soft and gas permeable lenses and sclerals, but we also have the largest portfolio of education for not only you as a practitioner, but for your staff as well. So we can review staff training, we do business solutions, we have a fantastic consultation team, and we can do lunch and learns and wet labs as well. Next. These are some of the manufactured lenses that we have available to you. We manufacture a number of scleral lenses. We have about 11 scleral lenses that we either manufacture or distribute for, as well as a number, I think it's 42 different gas permeable lens designs. Next. One of the things that we're the most proud of is our custom soft lenses as well. We can fit on either side of the bell curve when it comes to those patients that fit outside of boxed product. Next. This is our consultation team. We have a number of consultants. We actually have 11 consultants that we work with every day. Some of us have specialize in one product versus another. We have a couple of hybrid consultants. We have everyone can do gas permeable lenses in different designs. We have some that are specialists in scleral lenses as well, and we even have one dry eye expert on our team. Next. Next. Is it moving?
I have educational opportunities up with you on there.
It didn't look like it changed, but that's okay. There it is. So we provide live webinars and recorded webinars like we're doing this evening. We do have scleral boot camps available. We have virtual learning wet labs where we can actually do either in-office or virtual wet labs for you in your practices. We do virtual fits and live chat. One of the things that we're proud of as well that we offer that no other company really offers, and that is our private instruction education. So if you do need just some private instruction with new designs or new lenses, or you're just learning sclerals and you really want to get some hands-on help, we have this private instruction learning process that we can work with, and you can contact any one of our consultants to get involved in that virtual education or private instruction. Next. Some of the webinars that we provide or lunch and learns, virtual learning, are our specialty lens product catalog. We can go through the catalog and figure out which lens is best for your practice, whether it's gas perms or sclerals or soft customs, whatever design that you feel like you need in your practice. We can kind of get you started in specialty lenses. If you've got some questions about what do I need to do in my practice to get started working with specialty, to kind of move those people out into the state, like Katie was talking about earlier. We have that ability as well. We can do specific education on scleral lenses. We can do specific education on just basic scleral information or troubleshooting. And we also have staff education. So in order to be successful, it's good to have educated staff, and Dr. Brown can attest to that as well. So we actually do a three webinar series that is hands-on in your practice virtually to get your staff up to speed on any sort of specialty lens product that you want to use in your office. We also have dry eye education. If you want to get involved in dry eye or the treatment of dry eye, we have education that helps you get started in that as well. Our portfolio of products, we have a number of products to help you in anything specialty in your practice, whether it be scleral lenses or dry eye products or any of our gas permeable designs and products. And go to the next one. We actually have, to the next slide, retail opportunities for you as well. So go on to the next slide if you would. In every new patient order, new scleral patient order that you receive a scleral starter kit. So it's got everything in this kit that a patient would need to start into their scleral lenses. So it's got the scleral saline for insertion. It's got the tangible clean solution for care and handling. It's got lens cases and inserters and removers. And this is provided free to you for every new scleral lens order that you receive. And go ahead to the next couple of slides. In that product, we also have opportunities for you as well to have these products in your practice for retail sale, whether it is the saline or the tangible clean or tangible boost, or the other products that you might need to start with scleral lenses. So you can have all that in the practice for your patients as well. So go to the next one. If you have any questions for me, go on to the next one. You can get a hold of me at ABB, or you can work with us through the Scleral, the webinar series is listed here as well.
Thank you, Dee Dee. And of course, thank you, Dr. Brown and Dr. Elders. We do have a couple of questions, so folks, please stick around for them. I would also suggest to you that here's your opportunity to ask questions of a real live patient that isn't yours. And so there is some benefit of being able to ask something, and please do that if you will. And I'm actually going to start with a question for you, Dr. Elders, and that is, one of the attendees tonight wanted to know, was the Rgp painful with keratoconus?
Not so much at first, but it became more and more so. Again, toward the end, it was uncomfortable most of the time. They were better the first. It worked well. I got 30 some odd years out of it. It was a good technology. I just kind of matured out of that, but I got to where that I was very sensitive to wear, so I had a pipeline of new lenses that I would change out every 8 weeks or so and just discard or stash the old ones. But yeah, they were painful at the end.
You know, the way that the lenses were fitting your eyes, your corneal lenses, the pictures that Dr. Brown took, they're really quite revealing. It's always amazing to see those lenses on the eyes and wondering how they ever worked, or more importantly, how they even stayed in between the blinking. This is for, go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just going to say, I think as you saw it shift and stabilize going into the sclerals, it would definitely mold my cornea. It was almost like wearing orthopedic shoes. It would smash it in, and after wearing it for a while, it would sit better. So I suspect having had them out for a year made that. I tried them again here recently just as an experiment, and that was very unpleasant. Right. But even having out for a month, it made them less stable. So yeah, that was the end of a long trip. They were better to begin with.
You know, Dr. Elders, it wasn't uncommon at all in a contact lens practice to walk out in the waiting room and one could identify who was sitting in the waiting room that had keratoconus and was wearing corneal lenses. Because they're squeezing their eyes, they had a little bit of a head tilt, they were afraid of blinking them out.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah, and of course, Sclero's changed that altogether. Here's a question for Dr. Brown. When you're refracting, are you over-refracting like you did in this case from the cylinder to the sphere, sphere to the cylinder? Are you doing that with loose lenses or through a 4-opter?
No, actually, just to simplify things even more, we do an auto refraction over the lenses themselves, over the fitter lenses. And I say we, you guys don't get mad at me, but my techs do this for me. I'm really spoiled and I have amazing techs. And so they get an auto refraction and then they bring the patient back into the room and they refract based off of the auto and kind of refine it. If there's something that they feel that I need to check, or if the auto showed a lot of sill and the patient isn't taking sill, then sometimes I'll go back and probe and try to figure that out. But yeah, I do it through the 4-opter and use an auto refractor just to make it even more simple.
Yeah, well, it actually is quite streamlined the way that you're talking about. Another question is related to the process. How long would you estimate the fitting process, the initial scleral lens, let's say with ICD Flex, that process takes for the first time scleral lens wearer?
So my first time process takes about I mean, it depends, but probably an hour to an hour and a half. It depends on how many people I have there too. I can only be in one place at one time, and again, when you see 16 people a day, you've got multiple people that you're juggling. If I had one person that I could just pay attention to, I could probably get them out of there in less than an hour. But you know, I don't follow all the rules. I let the lens settle, you know, those initial lenses, I let them settle 15 minutes and then we auto refract over and we start, you know, we start getting it done. And so by the time I'm looking at the patient and making those customization, you know, decisions, the lens has maybe been on the eye for, you know, at most 30 minutes. At that time, I just honestly don't have time to let them settle for an hour.
Right.
And I've done that and I haven't seen a big change or a shift in anything. So I kind of like the accelerated method myself.
Yeah. And of course, there's enough data now that tells us maybe 20 to 25 minutes is the magic number for settling and to go from there. Dee Dee Reyes, Dee Dee, this is a question for you. And it's related to the diagnostic sets. Does ABB offer complementary or loaner sets to the practices?
We do offer loaner sets to the practices for ICD Flex and for a couple of our scleral lenses as well. ABB is also running a special right now that if you are interested in a fitting set, one of the things that we can do is get a fitting set in your hands. And if you fit 3 patients within a 90-day period, they will refund the cost of that fitting set to you. Initial cost of the set is about $350, but if you fit 3 successful patients in 90 days, then you can get that set for free. If that doesn't work for you, you can return the set for no additional charge.
Okay, that's terrific. So as we get ready to close, but people don't run away yet, Dr. Elders, do you have any last comments that you would like to make from a patient perspective?
I do have this is a sale to get more people fitting it. I don't know if I think I mentioned this before when we were discussing. In my practice, this is not from a patient standpoint, this is from a non-eye care provider standpoint. I manage an acute inpatient rehab unit, and I see quite a few folks in varying degrees of debility. And it was a few years back that I saw an elderly gentleman with some neurologic problems. And the nurses in this unit came to me and said, he's got some kind of contacts in and he won't let us take them out. And so I went and talked to him, and he starts telling me about this very rare condition he has called keratoconus, and that he has these contacts that are hard to handle and he doesn't like to mess with them. Well, this gentleman was wearing his corneal contacts for a week at a time through the night. And he had gotten to that basically because there was no other option where we lived. He lived in our same area. He's one of these people that could have gotten a lot more. He was squinty, he was uncomfortable. And I did talk to him. I said, well, no, wait a minute. I do know what you're talking about. We talked about it a bit. He was not ready to do anything about it. He'd settled into that groove. But he's a guy that a few years before, had he been fit better, he would have not put himself through sleeping in rigid gas perms for lack of a better solution. So that's the sort of thing that you see when you don't have access to somebody that can offer you a better solution.
Right. Well, really well said. And Dr. Braun, closing comments for you, but we have one more question for you, and that is related to how you go about checking clearances. Are you doing it by slit lamp alone, or do you do it by OCT, or what's your method?
Yeah, so I have an anterior sag OCT. We have a Pentacam. We have all the bells and whistles that we want. I hardly need a topographer. I mean, obviously I didn't use it with Dr. Elders because we got such a terrible scan on him. But I'm just using a slit lamp. I'm just kind of, eyeballing it, so to speak. And I'm looking at that fluorescein pattern. There was a time, because I've been doing this now for about 7 or 8 years fitting scleral lenses, but I remember when I was first getting started, I would kind of check myself and I would say, okay, I think that that's 175 microns of clearance. And then I would go check myself with my anterior sag OCT and use the calipers, just to see if I was, how close I was and if I was on point. So I think it's a good thing to do if you want to check yourself, but I don't think it's a necessary tool by any means.
Okay, terrific. Didi Reyes, any closing comments?
No, I absolutely agree with everything that Dr. Brown has said. And the only thing that I would say about the OCT is, remember the OCT gives you one line of image where a slit lamp can give you the full picture.
Right. Good point. Well, in wrapping this up, I really want to thank everybody that attended this evening. I for sure want to thank our presenter, Dr. Katie Brown. I especially want to thank Dr. Greg Elders for giving up his valuable time. Even though he's wearing the white coat tonight, he is really here as a patient and not as the doctor. Your insight was magnificent. We don't often get the opportunity in a large group setting to talk to the actual patients who are living through this. Really, it was extremely helpful. And of course, Didi, what you were relating to the latest and greatest at ABB Optical as well was really enlightening for everybody. So thank you very much for attending. I hope everybody will enjoy World Keratoconus Day. Thank you so much for attending. ABB Optical Group will have a new series of webinars beginning in 2022, and we hope you pay attention to them as well. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for your time.
Good night.